Hey there! Welcome back to Heart Key Creations. And if this is your first time with me, I'm Heather. I'm the artist behind Heart Key Creations. And today we're going to take a look at how I painted this alien fairy elf. I'm just going to call the painting Out of This World. I actually started, like I do all of my paintings, with tracing paper and just kind of did a very rough outline of what I wanted her to look like. And you can see that is a very rough outline. Yeah, I erase, I go back, I put it in more, and then I end up drawing out pretty much none of that hair. But I end up putting the eye and the face on there and the eyebrow, just where everything goes. It's just always the very basic outline that I chalk out on my painting. And I kind of skipped over me actually chalking out the painting, but now I'm just going over with the paint and outlining the chalk outline so that you can actually see the outline that I have and so that I can see it a lot better too. That background is poured acrylic, and there is a video of that pouring, and I will try and remember to link a card up so that you can just click that card and go see it. Or you can just wait till the end of the video and go check out my playlists. It's in there. So I wanted to do a portrait, but I didn't want to do a plain old normal person portrait, which meant I didn't even want to use normal people colors for her. So she's blue. She's very blue. And as you can see, I just do a lot of blending and testing, and I don't even know really exactly what shade I'm gonna do her in, but this is my process, people. I have nothing is ever set in stone with me. I may think I'm gonna go one way with it, but I don't. I'll go a different way. So the blue that I'm using, that I started out with, is the, I don't even remember what blue it was that I started out with. It was the, the phthalo blue, the red hue. And then I mostly added in some white or gray that I had mixed up from a previous painting, and just do all the shading or the highlights on her face. I also used just brilliant blue from Liquitex for some of the coloring and shading. And of course that purple is that purple that nobody can say, diazepine. No, that's a medicine. Diazepam. Huh. Yes, I'm a nurse, I'm sorry. But, you know, it's the diazoxide. That's also a medicine. Dioxazine. Dioxazine purple. Because I just love that purple. And I also use the quinacridone magenta in her lips, and orange and yellow for her eyes, and the whites of her eyes are not white, they are an extremely pale blue. Yeah, so it's just a lot of detail shading and blending. and back and forth work. Doing the highlights, giving her face some definition. Doing the inside of her ear just to try and give that some definition. And as always, I go back and forth in the piece, do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And nothing ever looks right until you get some hair in there. And even then it can look really, really funny. But for most of this piece, because it's so much larger, I don't actually use my favorite brush, the number 6 Bright that I usually use. I don't even know what brush that is that I'm using, but it's a bigger one. It's also a Bright. And it doesn't, the bristles on it are not as, they're a little softer than I really like, but they do work. They do the job. Any tool will do the job if you know how to use it. So sometimes you have to adjust your technique if your tool's not exactly what you like. And yeah, I still have a lot of problems with my battery dying, and I was only using a 4 gigabyte memory card in my camera. So yeah, I finally splurged and got a 64 megabyte. So maybe I'll have a lot less of the jump starts, because maybe the camera won't shut off on me as much. I still only get so long out of, a battery, but I always have a backup battery so I can at least keep painting and not have to wait and upload the video or anything to clear the memory card. But now I can do both. I can keep painting. I started out her hair with white. I just did it out in white and left my strokes. Tried to make them so that I could kind of had an outline, a generalized feel as to where I wanted the strands of hair to be, instead of, my clumps and clusters. I kind of made sure to, or tried to make sure to leave some brush strokes in there that were visible to help me along with that. And it really worked for me. May not work for you, but that's what works for me. And I go back and forth and soften up the ends of her hair a lot because I go back and forth with her hair and shading and midtones and highlights and dark shades, and yeah. I blend out the pink in her cheek, and I go over that multiple times in the end, because I didn't really like that shade. And the same with her nose, trying to give her nose some highlight, and I don't like that shade either. So I go back and paint over it. And at some point I realized that she has this major underbite. So I kind of fixed that. She still has an underbite, but I think that's okay. I didn't want her to be perfect looking. She isn't even human. So I just I said, all right, well, she can still have the underbite. Gives her some character. Going back over her hairline. Hadn't quite decided. I thought I was actually going to do her completely in blue and white for even her hair. And then I think after I did this white, I decided to add in that purple. But again, I'm leaving my brush strokes pretty visible so that I can mark in my clumps and clusters. I'm also working on my lighting and camera angle. For every video, I'm trying to work out what the best angle is. So I know that all of this video and a couple of them recently have been at this angle, but I'm trying to work up a setup so that it can be more kind of straight on instead of the angled on. But I also have to avoid any glare from the lights. I do think that the lighting itself on the videos, for the videos, and me in general, painting, has gotten a little bit better. I think I've kind of figured that out, but I still am definitely working on the camera angle, making sure I can get everything in, but also being able to show the whole thing. So that's a work in progress. And if you've watched my studio tour, then you know that my studio is actually just this little tiny corner in my living room. So what you see is my son going back and forth to his bedroom, and my husband there having a conversation with my son and trying to avoid being in the camera, but not really. And now he's talking to me. I've sped everything up so it looks kind of funny. But I think he was saying something that he thought was really serious at the time. And I was probably just sitting there nodding my head. Yes, dear. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we've all done that a time or two. And for most of this video, it really is just me highlighting and shading, blending, and getting the color of her skin down to where I wanted it. Where it was not natural, but looked kind of natural. Looked realistic, I guess. Not so much natural. Her coloring is really starting to come together, and it's just a matter of adding a little of the light bright blue and the white to the phthalo blue and the gray, and just kind of adding them back and forth and mixing them up and making sure your shadows go where they belong. And there I go with my finger again. I really gotta stop doing that. Actually, with my oil paints, I wear my gloves anyway, so I guess it's okay. Fingers sometimes are the best tools that you have. Sometimes they're the only tools that you have. If you don't have shadows under in the right places, actually, they don't necessarily have to be underneath anything, but usually that's where they are. But if you don't have the shadows in the right places, then your painting is going to always stay looking very flat. It's not going to pop out at the viewer at all. It's just going to maybe look cute, but not give anybody that, oh, wow, I need to do a second look there. Hold on. Going in and just doing the dark parts of her hair. And then I apparently had to let it dry or something. Something happened, and well, this is where we are in the painting now. I think my camera stopped and I didn't realize it, so I obviously went through on her hair in between and added a lot of those midtones in and some of the highlights. I definitely decide that I don't like that grayish color that's on her cheeks right now. I go in and fix that, I definitely brighten that up. Oh, I skipped through something there too. I added eyebrows. I added definition to her eyebrows there. And here's where I decided I was going to give her some clothes. I wasn't sure if I was going to give her any clothes actually in the beginning. I thought maybe I would just kind of let you wonder if she was wearing anything. But I decided, no, I'll give her a little shirt. I definitely go through a lot of the quinacridone magenta because that's like one of my favorite paint colors. I think it's actually just one of my favorite colors in general. And definitely looks a little different painting over top of that blue than it does if you painted it over top of another white or another pink, or if you just left it by itself. And see, I didn't like what I did on her shoulder. I made it way too light. I went in and just wiped it off with the Kleenex. Apparently my son and I were having a conversation there. I'm left-handed, so putting the camera on the other side is, well, it doesn't make much sense because my hand will always be in the way of your view. But leaving it the way that I have it now leaves, well, the rest of the background completely open for you to see whatever distractions are happening for me. So I went in, or after taking all the, stepping back from the painting and looking at it far away, and I said, well, as pretty as that poured background looks, the painting just seems to be missing something. So I decided that I was going to throw in some bubbles, which actually, I think in the end, look more like little worlds. So, bubbles, worlds, whatever you want to think they are, that's what they are. It's whatever you want. Because that's the beauty of art. Interpretation, totally up to you. So I just kind of went in and I was glazing over the background. I did not use straight paint for any of it. I used I used less of the glaze. And for the glaze, I just used Liquitex glazing medium. So I used less of the glaze for the outline of the circles than I did as I got into the middle of them. I just kind of went around and placed them here and there and varied their shapes, or not their shapes, but varied their sizes. And I think it really helped give the piece a lot more to look at and keep the eye flowing from one spot to another. You didn't get bored with the painting, or at least not very quickly. So now I'm just kind of going in and adding finishing touches, some highlights on the bubble world bubbles. And I go in and I think I do a little bit more to her cheek too. I don't remember now. Yes, see? I do. I do a little bit more to her cheek. Cheeks are not my friend yet. I will get them down, but right now, they kind of give me some trouble. Just making sure that that big bubble world has plenty of highlight and kind of definition in there. I don't know if it really gives it definition, but I made it look prettier. I liked it better in the end. And that's about it. So, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, share it, tell all your friends about it, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.